Boston, January 15th, 1919. Imagine standing in the narrow streets of the North End, hearing the rattle of wagons, the chatter of children, the salty air drifting from the harbor. Life is ordinary, and then it isn't. A roar splits the afternoon, and before you can react, a wall of syrup 25 feet tall is racing straight at you, faster than a horse can gallop. Not water, not fire, but molasses, 2 million gallons of it. This sounds like a dark joke, or maybe a scene out of a surreal film, but it was real. And for Boston, it became one of the strangest and deadliest days in its history. Today, we're diving into the Great Molasses Flood of 1919, a story that's equal parts tragedy, corporate negligence, and absurdity so unbelievable, you almost have to laugh, until you realize that people actually died in this sticky nightmare. To us, molasses might just be a pancake topping or an old-fashioned ingredient in gingerbread cookies. But in 1919, molasses was money. It was fuel for a growing nation. Imported in giant shipments, it was distilled into industrial alcohol used for munitions, cleaning products, and, let's be honest, for rum. The United States Industrial Alcohol Company was one of the biggest players in this game, and in 1915, they built what they thought would be their golden goose, a steel storage tank in Boston's North End, capable of holding 2.3 million gallons of molasses. The tank loomed above a working-class immigrant neighborhood. Italians, Irish, and Portuguese families lived in its shadow. It was supposed to be a symbol of industry. Instead, it became a ticking time bomb. From day one, the tank was trouble. Residents noticed it groaned and leaked. Dark, sticky rivulets ran down its sides, leaving puddles in the street. Children filled tin cups with free molasses dripping from the cracks. Workers complained. The company's solution? Instead of fixing the leaks, they painted the tank brown to hide the stains. It was negligence painted over with a fresh coat, a shortcut hiding a disaster. The tank itself was monstrous, 90 feet in diameter, 50 feet high, towering over homes and stables. But for all its size, it was fragile. The steel was too thin. The rivets were weak. No proper stress tests were done before it was filled to the brim. Engineers later testified they could have predicted disaster. But in 1915, the rush to profit overshadowed caution. For the people in the North End, the tank was just part of the skyline. Some joked about it. Others worried. Few imagined that one day it would burst like a bomb and unleash a flood thicker than oil. Yet the danger was always there, building slowly with every delivery of hot, sticky syrup. January 15th, 1919 was warmer than usual. Temperatures jumped from freezing to the low 40s. Inside the tank, a fresh shipment of molasses had just arrived, still warm from transport, fermenting, expanding. Pressure built against the weak steel walls. At 12:30 p.m., the tank gave way. First came sharp cracks, like gunfire, as rivets snapped. Then a thunderous roar. The ground shook, and then came the wave. 2 million gallons of molasses burst into the streets with the force of an explosion. A wall of syrup, 25 feet high and moving 35 miles per hour, slammed into everything in its path. Horses and wagons were crushed. Houses splintered. The wave picked up a train and hurled it off the tracks. People were swallowed whole, trapped in a sticky current they couldn't escape. Witnesses said it looked like the end of the world. The smell was overwhelming, sweet but suffocating. The sound was deafening, a mix of rushing liquid and tearing metal. One firefighter was pinned under the wreckage of his station as the syrup engulfed him. A woman was swept from her porch, carried half a block before disappearing. The flood did not discriminate. It took everything. In the chaos, screams were muffled by the thickness of the molasses. Some victims suffocated where they stood. Others drowned slowly, unable to break free. Horses panicked, thrashing until they sank. Families were separated. By the time the flood receded, 21 people were dead. Over 150 were injured. The North End looked like a battlefield, But instead of smoke and rubble, there was syrup clinging to every surface. Rescue efforts were heroic but nearly impossible. Police, soldiers, and volunteers rushed in, only to find themselves stuck knee-deep in the sludge. Boats were brought to navigate the flooded streets. Doctors treated the injured in makeshift hospitals. Cleanup crews used salt water and sand to wash the streets, but the mess was relentless. For weeks, the harbor ran brown with molasses. For decades, locals swore they could still smell it on hot summer days. The company wasted no time spinning excuses. First, they claimed anarchists had bombed the tank. It was 1919, a time of labor unrest, Red Scare paranoia, and fear of foreign radicals. But the truth was far less dramatic and far more damning. Investigators found the steel was too thin. The rivets were substandard. No one had properly tested the tank. Experts testified the disaster was inevitable. This wasn't sabotage. This was negligence. After years of legal battles, United States Industrial Alcohol was found liable. They paid $628,000 in damages, over $10 million today. It became one of the first major corporate accountability cases in American history. A precedent was set. Companies could no longer cut corners and gamble with public safety without consequences. The Great Molasses Flood entered Boston folklore. Children whispered about ghosts sticky with syrup. Adults swore the smell lingered in the air for generations. It became a cautionary tale, but also a symbol of how absurd tragedy can be. On a more serious level, it reshaped American industry. Building codes tightened. Safety inspections became mandatory. Engineers gained authority to enforce standards. In a strange way, Boston's sticky nightmare helped protect future cities from similar disasters. Today, the site of the tank is a quiet park. Visitors walk their dogs, sit on benches, and rarely think about the day when a tidal wave of syrup tore through the neighborhood. But the memory remains, a reminder that history is not only written in wars and politics, but also in the strangest of disasters. The Great Molasses Flood is a story that feels almost comic until you remember the lives lost. It was a tragedy born of greed and negligence, a disaster so bizarre that it's easy to forget the human cost. So what do you think? Was this simply a freak accident of nature, or was it a preventable tragedy that should never have happened? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's strangest disasters, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories where the past comes alive in the most unexpected ways. And next time you drizzle syrup on your pancakes, remember, in 1919 it wasn't so.